Again, last night, I didn't see anything wrong with them.
Yeah, same here. So I second that.
Okay, so motion to approve by
Yeah.
Clark and a second by Jeff. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 6-0. Community Corrections Report. Brett Barton. Good morning.
This morning, we have 88 individuals on our program, 7 are on CTP, we have 2 pretrial releases and 6 juveniles. Since our last meeting, we did submit our grant proposal, so we should hear back from that on September 1st. We also received our Tahoe for our K-9 officer since the last meeting, and upon receiving that, abruptly was rear-ended.
Oh,
So it had about 200 miles on it. So that was June 28th, and from that time, we're still dealing with the insurance company and can't even get it in to get it fixed yet. We're dealing with the adjusters there, so it's kind of just stalled. I don't know why, but we sent off a couple of emails here, talked to them quite often, but just want to make you guys aware that the insurance company isn't, I don't think, doing what they're supposed to be doing for us at this time. So we're lucky that it wasn't totaled. I don't know what our officer will be doing the last 2 weeks. Just a concern.
I assume you've updated the commissioners?
No, it's,
Oh,
yeah, so.
yeah.
Okay. And that's all I have. Any questions for you at all?
Short and sweet. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Don't believe we have Nancy with us, but she had submitted our,
No, I.
we don't have it for this
I didn't
month?
get-
Okay. We'll catch up then in August with the probation report, but we'd been trending very, very well for the year up to and through June, so. That moves us to new business, and I want to add one item that's not on the agenda, and I apologize, guys, that this didn't get on the agenda. It was my fault. Tom had asked me to get it on there, and I just didn't get it done. But, Tom, I'm going to turn it over to you. We've got an issue with a land transfer that we need to deal with, and you have some information on that.
Right, thanks, Mr. Dunn. Yes, so the county owns real property out of the TPA park where the skating rink is located or sits upon. We don't own the skating rink itself, the building, but we do own the land. So this has kind of been an ongoing issue because the owner, Tracy Baber,
Yes.
Tracy Baber owns the skating rink but doesn't own the land. And so she's had some difficulty knowing, hey, if I want to make some improvements, it's going to be a problem for me going forward if I ever want to sell this. So after much discussion, we did receive 2 independent appraisals of the land itself. And both appraisals came back exactly at $30,000. So the commissioners voted 2-1 to allow her to purchase the land for $30,000. But in all land transfers, whether it be purchase or selling, we have to have approval of both the commissioners and the council. And so that's why we're here today, and I put Tracy on the agenda, wanted to be on the agenda, so maybe she could explain just a little bit about what's going on in case you guys have any questions as far as what her business is like and why she would like to purchase the land itself. I will say this, as part of the deal, if this were ever to go through, I would ask that the county have the right of first refusal if she were ever to sell. Okay, so that would be we'd have to buy the building and the land, obviously, because it just doesn't make any sense to
right.
keep them separated, and that's kind of the issue we have. So I'll let Ms. Baber kind of explain a little bit from here.
Yeah, that's, it's just a difficult situation because any kind of a business, you wanna have land attached to it as one. And if I would go to sell it, it's difficult for anybody to purchase it. For one, most like loan companies will only loan for like 3 years for the building, which is kind of impossible.
Right.
So, with the land together as a whole, it would be easier to get a loan for somebody if they needed to get a loan when they sell. Not to mention, when I do sell, because I've been doing it for 22 years, and I don't wanna do it all my life. And I feel like that I've done, I've turned the place around. It is a place for the kids to come to. I don't want it to go away. I mean, I don't know how you guys feel, but, I think the community likes the skating rink. So any improvements that I do, I feel like if I don't have the land and I have the 30-year lease, which is gonna be up in 8 years, if any of the improvements that I put into the building in 8 years after the 30-year So when I did purchase the building, they were nice to give me a 30-year lease. So that kinda guaranteed me that I could run it for at least 30 years, but time flies and it's almost up, so, I'm just looking for the future.
Yes. Do you have any issue or objection to the right of first refusal
No,
clause? Okay.
just that, I'm hoping that it goes for the value of the building and the land together, if I do buy the.
Right, okay, okay. I guess we have two of the three commissioners in here, unless Jordan's sneaking around somewhere, but the vote was 2-1, so there's at least two sides to the story. I'd like to know what the maybe the downside would be, or why there was not a 3-0 vote. Was there something I'm not thinking about? It seems like
I was a no vote. I'm just kind of think the land we have, we should keep, just in case. I mean, it's the land in the middle of the park and could be used for several things. So I was the no vote.
okay.
I think after that's when we came up with the idea for a right of first refusal so that we could retain that land if we wanted to.
Okay, that seems to make sense as a compromise, yeah. Okay, so you've heard the request, $30,000 was that makes it really easy when when the appraisals are exactly the same, so, any thoughts or questions or?
I haven't been to the skating rink in years, but I remember going there when I was a kid, and I think it is an asset for the community, and it's a small business. We've always encouraged small businesses, and I think we have an easy out by, if stuff changes, we get a chance to buy it back if something changes, so I think it's a good idea.
Seeing no objection, then
So,
go ahead.
question. You say that, we're not gonna hold you to it, obviously, because nobody knows, but your intentions are to do some upgrades to that at this point, or you're,
Yeah, unless somebody, comes into town and just wants to buy it as a skating rink, 'cause, I mean, I can control who comes in there. I don't want the skating rink to go away. So, I have had somebody that was interested in it at one time, last year. After COVID, I think they thought I was probably desperate, I don't know what they thought. But, and I told them a price, and I said, the land doesn't go with it right now. I said, I've been working on it, I'm hoping to get the land one day. And so they didn't like the price, so they said, well, thanks, but no thanks. So, yeah, if somebody comes through wanting to buy it as a skating rink, I would probably jump on that opportunity just because I work a full-time job, and no, I don't wanna do it all my life. I mean, I'm near retirement, so I'm gonna be honest, if somebody does come through and wants to buy it and to run it as a skating rink and do improvements, then yeah, I will look into doing that. And if, you wanna look at their proposal for what they're doing before I sell, I would be interested in, you guys wanting to know what they wanna do with it.
I have one more question. I'm not that clear on real estate law, Tom. Is it fair to ask that right of first refusal runs with the title? If she sells it to another person, would that right of first refusal for the county run with the land, with the title?
That's a good idea.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to make sure that was, yes, because that way she's free and clear to sell it to hopefully another individual that's gonna continue to make it an asset, and we can just be there in the background, watching things and having fun.
It's skating away.
I know the one that, was interested, possibly could be interested again, cause they were looking to buy 5 skating rinks in the next 5 years. And their improvements were, I absolutely loved their improvements, what they were gonna do. It would've really been nice for the community. And actually, I do have an investor that is interested in buying the skating rink, the land, and finding somebody to improve and run.
Well,
I do like the fact that we have first rights. It kind of seems awful odd that we would sell it today and then tomorrow be buying it back again. But if we found for some reason that it wasn't in the best interest of the community, then we do at least have that option, so.
And that's why maybe, if you guys wanna look into the people, I know in the lease agreement, they were very concerned about who was getting in, because it is a concern. Because of the previous owner, and it's a legit concern on who gets in there. And if you guys wanted to, look at the people and, check them out as well, then I have no problem with that.
So, one other question, just absolutely, so it's out in front of everything. If she has a buyer, and that buyer, looks good to us, can we, we're gonna refuse that first, we would be given an opportunity at that point, but I don't wanna cancel our first right of refusal, it'll still be there.
If you run with the land.
Yeah,
any
if it runs with
subsequent purchaser after that will have a right of first refusal.
Okay,
on that.
I just wanna make double sure that stays there, but it still allows her to sell it.
I would think that could even possibly add some value in the sense that a future owner would know that there's a buyer, an interested buyer, if they felt like they needed to exit.
Yeah, it would be like a last resort.
Ron has a question.
I'm sorry, yes.
What's your status? You're pretty busy out there? I've been thrown out there for years.
Well,
I feel like there's a pretty good demand for it.
Pretty good demand.
yeah.
Well, there's
It's better than ever right now, actually.
very few of them around anymore,
No,
skating
they-
rinks.
There's a lot that have closed during COVID.
I hear a lot of support, so now I need a motion. If somebody
I'll make a motion to support the
to
sale.
motion to support the sale with the right of first refusal
Right.
tied to the terms of as you understand it, and can put it into words. So we have a motion by Jake and a second by Mike. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 7-0. Can you?
Just a little.
I want to apologize. I said 6-0 in the minutes earlier, and you were perfectly hiding behind Clark, and I didn't think you were here, so that's why I said 6 and not 7. But
I wasn't here on the vote.
oh, you weren't? You did sneak in? Okay, well, I'm not crazy then. All right. Tom, thank you for keeping me on task with that. I apologize that we had that miscommunication. Okay, next on the agenda is the reappointment of Emily Buncho to the Kirkland Library Board, and this is something that we've talked about over the last couple of months that we needed to get done and wrapped up. As that appointment actually expired at the end of June, and refresh my memory, did we actually go ahead and?
You already have
We
signed.
did do the appointment, but we still wanted Emily to come in. And Emily, this goes back to a decision that we made as a council last year, that we were starting to get our list of appointments to be such that there were several people we'd never met. And we felt like, we were getting away from, you represent the council in a way as sort of our liaison to the board. And so we just felt like we needed to really make an effort to reach out and at least have met face to face with the people that we appoint to these various positions. And so we have Emily and Heidi Turner from the Kirkland Library Board today, and I know, Heidi, you've got some information to share with us as well. So I'm going to turn it over to you two ladies, and I'll let you say whatever it is you'd like to say. We'd just like to welcome you and say nice to meet you, and if you have anything you'd like to share.
Thank you so much. I was really fearful you were going to kick me off the board. But, yes, so I'm just really happy to be able to be a part of Kirkland and be a part of the library and not just, I've grown up there and that was one of my favorite places to be. So it's just a joy working to be able to serve our community. So thank you for allowing me to continue.
Great.
Well, and Emily, you really want your board members to be patrons at the library and to utilize what we offer. And Emily is a wonderful library patron, so I feel like she represents you all very well. She represents Kirkland well, she represents the library board well, and you should be just thrilled that you have someone as your representative. And what I'd like to present is next month, the library board, or the library will be coming before you looking to start a project again in 2022. We have a visitors list now that will end at the end of the year. And so we're looking to do some repairs and maintenance on the building starting for next year if we get the funds. We need a new roof. We're not wanting to necessarily add anything because we're landlocked and we can't do anything. But we need some major repairs down on the building itself. It's an original Carnegie. I don't know if any of you have been in the Kirkland Library. It's a beautiful building. The addition they did 20 years ago is wonderful, and it's such an asset to our community. But it needs repairs. We need a new roof. We need some repair done on the inside. Due to COVID, we have some issues where we need some study rooms. There's just several things that we need updates. So we're going to be coming, Jane Herndon, Ryan Fetters. I think that you all know these individuals. We used them 20 years ago. I wasn't there, but I've been at the library now 17 years. So, but these were individuals that we used, and we hired Harry Mueller as our architect, and he's kind of given us a list of budget to look at. So that's what we're looking to do.
Can you share a little bit about the numbers, the size of the?
Right now, Harry's numbers to me, final or total construction is $461,500, but that's before architect fees and then other cost of bond issuance not included. So I'm guessing that's Jane's fees are not included in that, and then Ryan's as well are not included in that. So that's just construction cost, and it kind of overwhelms me, but with the cost of everything on that, so they don't seem to think that's too bad.
So where we come into that is that when debt is issued by an unelected board, it has to be approved by a fiscal body. And because the library is supported by both the town and the township, we are the only body that represents both the town and the township. So it defaults to us to be the approving fiscal body to do the necessary documents for them to issue the bonds. So I wanted Heidi to give us a little bit of a preview so that when that came to us next month, that wasn't the first time we ever heard about it. And so if you want to know more about their project, and as she explained, one bond is rolling off and this one is roughly the same size, so we're not asking the taxpayers to pay any more on their tax rate than they previously had been. It's just essentially renewing a debt at roughly the same amount.
Looking, and the tax rate would go back to what it was last year, because this year it's half of what it was.
Yeah.
It's been our money. So, I've been better about this, we would have started this process last year, but.
So
Yeah, because there's certain deadlines for getting that increased, I think, in there, that tax rate.
yeah. So that's what we're going through all those steps. And so the people she was referring to were the financial advisors that'll present the numbers and the details of the project. But knowing what we already know, I wanted you all to hear a little bit about it, and that way you have between now and then, if you want to go see the library or talk in more detail about what the project is, you have plenty of time to do that before they ask for our blessing next month. So.
I got a question for Emily. Emily, what's your responsibilities on that board? How would you put into your words your responsibility on that board?
Well, I'm the secretary, which is not, but okay. So, yes, so I'm on the secretary of the board, and we, just, that's the most important part of that, and then the secondary part is I get to help with, especially with children. Anytime I can wear a costume. So, those are my big responsibilities.
And again, yes, this summer, Emily, we have a tree house in the basement in the children's area. That was built a few years ago, and this year it's turned into a castle for our summer reading program. So Emily has come in as a knight this summer, and as a princess this summer. And so, again, you all you have such a gem in Emily on the board, and she's fantastic. So she's painted the castle. I mean, she took the castle pieces home and painted them, and just has gone above and beyond Call of Duty when it comes to the library board.
Thank you both for taking
Nice to
the
meet
time to
you.
come today, and nice to meet you, Emily. And feel free to reach out anytime we could be of help. And we'll reach out through you if we need to communicate with the board.
No, he's constituents. I may be biased.
All right. Next on the agenda, Rick Campbell, we've got some information about highway, or grader quotes. Good morning.
Morning.
I'll start this. Our lease on our grader is just about up. The way I figured, it should be up in March, because we didn't take possession of that until March.
Okay.
But we got one more payment to make, and we put in the budget for this next year, 2 new graders. We have 2 graders. We have one that's, it's a 1996. It's 25 years old. We spent a lot of money on it, but anyway, we wanted to lease 2 new graders. We was hoping the old one would pay for the first year's lease, but it's not going to. We're only getting $45,000 for the old one. But I'm trying to find somebody that'll pay more.
Okay.
But anyway, I guess what I wanna do is we wanna get 2 new graders. Their lease will be leased for 5 years at $51,208 each.
Okay.
So it's $102,416 for 5 years. But that's,
Is that roughly the same, the 51,000, roughly what we're paying now on the one that's expiring?
this, yeah, I had that wrote down, I don't know what I did with it. This one's, I got it somewhere, but this is higher. These rates are a lot higher than what that one was. But anyway,
Of course, we don't have a trade-in on this one like we probably did when we did that one.
they're at a trade, well, the old grader that we traded in a few years ago, it paid for the lease the first year. But this is gonna work out this time.
So for what you're requesting next year, would it be fair to say it'd be the 102 less the 45 at least?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Okay. And are we bringing this up now rather than at the budget time because you want to go ahead and sign the lease because of lead times and those kinds of things?
I wanna get you guys' permission to go ahead and get the graders ordered.
Okay.
If you let me have them.
Okay.
Because, like I said, I'm not exactly for sure when lease is up. It should be March, but I don't wanna come around January 1st and not have a grader and a big snow.
Yeah, gotcha. Well, you certainly have healthy cash balances, so I'm not concerned about the additional cash flow. Does anybody else have any questions or concerns about? I think we've had great success moving to the leases on being able to upgrade our equipment fleet, and I have no objection to, if no one has any questions or concerns, I'd entertain a motion.
Is there a chance of keeping that old grader just to have an extra one laying around, sitting around, or is it more ideal to go ahead and get rid of it? I
We
mean,
can keep it, and the fairground wants it right now. So it's back out to fairground. They're all the time borrowing it.
no, I mean, it's paid for, right?
Yeah, it's paid for.
Yeah.
We-
Good question.
Like I said, we spent a lot of money on it. There's no oil leaks, there's no hydraulic leaks. We had last year, we had all the hydraulic cylinders taken off of it, taken in and rebuilt.
Yeah.
The only thing we're having trouble with, you gotta pump the brake pedal sometimes to get the compressor to kick in.
That might be something to consider moving on, between now and the time we have to sign or make the first payment, but, as far as giving, approval for moving forward with a lease for 2 graders, I still think I'd like to have a motion.
I'll make a motion to that, yeah.
Second.
Have a motion by Jake and a second by Jeff to move, forward with giving authority to purchase, via lease 2 new graders. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you, Rick.
I can go ahead and tell
Yep.
the cabinet
Yep.
to get them ordered.
Yep. We'll deal, we don't anticipate any money until 2022, correct? So we'd still put it in the budget process.
Right.
Okay,
And your question this morning about the additional, last year, we didn't spread any gravel roads. I mean, we just fixed the bad spots. We didn't spread all of them solid. We did that this year.
Okay.
And last year, we only chip sealed 43 miles of road. This year, it'd be like 73 miles of road. And we've just been staying busy, and getting stuff done.
Well, and
We've done a lot of roads in this year too, we didn't do before.
to clarify, since they didn't hear me ask the question, I asked Rick because in our additional appropriations, there's a $400,000 additional appropriation for chip seal, and that was just a really big number, you know, and I wanted to confirm what I thought to be the case, and that is that we were just exceedingly cautious last year during the COVID year. We reined in the spending, we didn't do nearly as much work, and then we were waiting to see how the gas tax receipts would rebound, which they've rebounded very strongly, so now we feel a little more comfortable with spending more money than we anticipated.
I'm doing some conversions, more conversions than we had before, and next year that's gonna go away.
Okay.
It'll be just a couple miles or so.
Okay,
I just wanted to clarify.
yeah, thank you,
What we're doing.
that's helpful,
I'm trying to save money.
appreciate it.
Thanks, Rick.
Thank you, Rick. Okay, next item was, the auditor has presented us with some information related to it's hard to believe we're ready to start another budget season, but we are, and we've started to receive some of the critical pieces of information that we need to know to put that budget together. And so just sort of, for the public record, I guess, I will review a couple of those things. First kind of critical component is we get a notification from the state at this time of the year on what the levy growth quotient is. So the levy growth quotient, I think sometimes it's a misnomer that the people think we can just charge whatever we want in property taxes to pay for whatever our expenses are, and that's not the case. We get a cap, we get an allowance, so to speak, from the state of how much money we can collect in property taxes, and that is our tax levy. And that tax levy, the state tells us each year how much that can grow from year to year. We received that notification for the '22 budget, and it's up 4.3%. So we can take last year's levy and increase them. This year we have 104.3% of last year's amount to spend. So that's a strong number, and that's taken as a rolling average. It's a 6-year rolling average of Indiana non-farm income. So that means Indiana has been very healthy and growing, and likely would have been a bigger number had 2020 not been such a challenge. So that also adjusts, in our case, nearly every taxing district is already operating at their maximum levy, so that growth quotient goes directly to that maximum levy, and that is the amount of money that we have to spend. Some places, believe it or not, in the state, they aren't at their maximum levy, and so the growth quotient is applied to the maximum, but they may not spend it all. We also got our first estimate of the property tax impact, and I don't have that in front of me, but Britt, do you happen to remember the number for can you pass that down to me?
It should have been all together.
Was it?
Can you see
Here,
that?
yeah, I got it. Sometimes I just get a little disorganized with all my. So, estimated impact, $871,000. So what that represents is money that is gonna be billed out in property tax, in bills that property owners are gonna get, but won't be collected because those property taxpayers are over the tax cap. So that's a significant amount of change, a chunk of change there that is growing on an annual basis. Just makes our job a little harder, but it's nothing new. It's been there since we've had the tax caps. It just peels away a little bit of that growth, levy growth that we receive. We also received information on the CUME rates. I don't know, was that in there too, Jeff?
Yes.
So our CUME funds are slightly different in that there's two different types of cumulative funds. One is a levy-based rate and the other is a rate-based fund. And a rate-based fund says as the assessed value growth occurs, you take the new rate times that assessed value, and it can grow. It just grows as your assessed value base grows. The levy funds are more like what the traditional funds are. They tell you how much money you can collect, and the tax rate adjusts up or down to collect the appropriate amount of money. Yeah, so it looks to me like there was no change in the, I'm sorry, I should have looked at this before. Yeah, there's no change here in the, well, I take that back, there is one in the, and Rick, you may want to know about this, but the bridge fund is actually lower. From last year, it was a 4.5 cent rate, and this year, the 2021 certified rate, I'm sorry, that's the maximum rate is 4.5.
Yeah,
and the
it's not changed.
It has not changed. I was looking at the wrong one. I apologize. We aren't at the maximum rate, so we do have some wiggle room if that rate needed to be for a particular project or something on the bridge rate.
You could go through the process and raise it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
I
sorry.
had the same problem.
I didn't mean to confuse
I had the
everybody.
same problem when I read them too.
Yeah,
so
the way they're listed there.
That first number throws you off.
Rick thought he had a great day going.
I just gave him a heart attack. I'm sorry about that. So anyway, I just, there's nothing to take action on. It's just, I wanted to say that we've got that information. We started the process. So the next piece of information that we'll get is the state will give us our estimate on income tax receipts for 2021. And so once we find that out, we'll have our two primary revenue numbers that we can start to balance the expense request against to try to balance a budget for next year. So,
Well, just while you, since you stumbled into this, I wonder if we shouldn't task Rick with the thought of looking into increasing that Cume Bridge Fund based on, I don't know what the latest bridge inspections are and other things like that, but there's a process. And the Cume Bridge Fund is the only one that's not at the maximum allowed levy.
yeah, if you guys want to take a look.
There's only about 225 bridges.
So I think we ought to be looking at that.
Okay, good point, Clark. Thank you. Okay, so that takes care of that. Next up, Sheriff Kelly, legal invoices.
Got the other items. Commissary annual report as well. I spoke with Alan, President, in regards to the invoices. I can put these up. These invoices are generated through general work at the sheriff's office. And I know there's some disagreement on when and where and what. I understand that completely, so do the attorney. Understand that completely as well. So it's not something that has to be done today. It doesn't have to, it's not something that has to be taken care of within 30 days. Very professionally, it just needs to be sorted out. And taking office, are there retainers paid to these attorneys? Through the Sheriff's Association, there are attorneys that are provided through the membership that we do pay for. Prior to the resolution being rescinded, these are professional services that I think, Alan, you've looked, I've looked. That's what's been paid through the commissary. It's professional services. So with the resolution being rescinded, there has to be another avenue. So that's what I'm asking for, and it's something that we can budget, whatever the case is, and absolutely open for discussion. Tell me how we can fix this moving forward.
So do you have a packet of information that details the invoices that you have?
Yes.
For us to review?
I do.
Okay.
I do. And, so it's not something that has to be done today, it's not something that is, gosh, we gotta have this done, but it's something that we do have to look at, because previous sheriff, I know that's how these were paid for. They were paid out of commissary under the resolution, or under the agreement that's where it would go from.
Right.
I've looked, the services, for legal services for the sheriff line is zero. It's still there, but it's zero. It's been zero for years. So
Yeah, and that's what and to reference it, that's what I went back and looked, and I can confirm, I went back to every budget book I have through 2008, and there's never been a legal services line item in the general fund during my time on the council. What we don't see is, of course, we've never seen the detailed expenditures from the commissary fund. We always get the summary, have gotten a summary, so we don't have any reference point on how many dollars have been spent in the past for legal
Yes.
fees.
And
So,
I think if traditionally, if we look at that, we probably wouldn't. I think, I can give you everything from the sheriff's office from 19 on, but I can't speak for 2018 and prior. So with that, I'm I'm gonna I will leave that with you, leave it for discussion. I've got the commissary jail report biannual, so I've got that for you. Has the registry, has where it went to, has payee and amounts dates. So I've included that. If there are any other questions regarding this commissary report, please reach out, come down, sit down. I'll make copies. We can email it to you, whatever the case is. But the registry is attached because that's what you asked for.
Thank you.
We're gonna provide you. So, not an issue. We've got it. I would note on there that it does show that there's, from the point of the resolution being rescinded, so know that half of it will have things that, were under that resolution.
Yeah.
And the other from March on will not. It'll abide by the.
Understood, yeah.
Resolution. So I have that. Commissary is fine. It's doing well. I think it's on pace to stay right where it's at. And as far as, purchasing, I think we, maybe jumping to a lot of things, but I'm going to do my report now.
Yeah.
And that way I don't have to do it later. I know that last month I was out of area, so I wasn't able to attend the meeting. And I do appreciate the approval and purchase of body armor for the SWAT team, which is a function that's outside of the normal realm, what council was asked to pay for. So I do appreciate that to a certain, without reservation there. I do appreciate that. Budgeting was asked about in regards to that. A lot of that has to do with, I'm sick of saying COVID-19, but COVID-19, nobody was making money. So I think, the donations, things like that really dried up, and our guys do. And I think on the city side as well as the county side that are on that combined team, they do reach out, but at a time when small businesses, because that's who typically our donators are small businesses, it's a little bit difficult to ask them for something when they can barely keep their people paid, and they saw the loss of income. So that was not a priority to raise funds the last year. As far as the budget process, I have on my people in regards to their expiration dates on the body armor and that now, and I did not realize that we were at that point. And so team leader structure-wise, things like that, and their need to inform me has been addressed pretty clear, so that that we have an outlook now, placing that prior to just saying, oh, it's expired. So with that, my apologies on not having that, having our people prepared, and I can't speak on the city's behalf. They're on a separate budget than we are. So with that, and it would also have been prior to the resolution being presented, we would ask for the commissary could go ahead and bring that and purchase that. So with that, a lot of things changed from February till now. But with those changes, I'm open to whatever discussion you want to have regarding invoices that I'll leave you and the future budget of that.
Well, just to be clear on my understanding, just so that you're clear on how I view it anyway, the way that resolution read was that you were still allowed to do anything that was in the enumerated uses of the commissary fund, and I would argue that that equipment fell under those enumerated uses, so that you could have paid for that out of commissary with no input or permission from the council. So don't feel like you can't purchase anything. It was just if it was beyond those enumerated.
I want to be extremely.
Well, I get that. I get that. So to relate to that, maybe I'll just tie in my question that I asked you before the meeting, and we have on our additional appropriations a reimbursement from a grant request that was just under $12,000, I think, that was to reimburse commissary fund for some COVID expenses that were earlier in the year. What I asked the sheriff was whether he was agreeable, and he says he is, or I don't want to speak for you, but that was how we discussed, was that we deny that appropriation to put it back to COVID, let that money stay in county general as a way to defer some of the cost of that SWAT gear that we approved last year. So, and I think I understood you to say you were okay with that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
The only thing that I would ask is that maybe the auditor or use the fiscal body would have a better idea. I just don't want to, that grant, I don't want to be in violation of that grant. And if that's the case, if you have to do that, then I think you'll look at this and see that there's.
Well, fair enough.
I just don't want to ruin the chances of ever being able to grab that grant again or commissary report. Commissary is pretty strong, it's stayed strong, so we can do that. If your account would approve,
I'm gonna send those.
whether it's a
I'll get copies to everybody. But if you want to start it at that end, and we'll just work it down if everybody wants to review.
So we're right, on the commissary report, you'll look, we're right on pace where we were last year, same. And I think it's because during COVID, we did have a reduction in people in the facility, so there's a comparable number there. So this may not be the right year to compare last year to this year. We have, we're averaging 165 to 180 people. And during COVID or during 2020, we were right around 114 to 145. So there is an increase in population, but we're staying about the same pace in that situation.
That reminds me, how are we doing on the inmate count for the federal program?
I think from, guess on the date, I think it was September of 20, the inmates were brought in. I think we're money generated over 1.4 million, and then now we've paid out the four salaries for the jail that we've started, and probably right around just shy of $1 million. Now, we average 50 to 60 inmates. We stay truly closer to 60 than we do
Okay.
the 30 that's in the agreement with the prisons. So we keep what we can. If we gain more population for the county, then we would reduce the number of federal inmates, but it looks like we're staying strong. We're averaging 114 to 140,000 a month reimbursement, not including, transports, things like that. So
Okay, that's great.
it is, absolutely, and it's, it's really proven, to a certain extent, with the extra staff that we've hired, it's made it absolutely manageable. We've actually had some people resign from the jail, come back to the jail because they realize that the workplaces out there aren't available. So, I mean, we're staying strong, we're at full capacity minus one last week, so doing fantastic, and we have a list of people to call to hire. So going into the latter part of this year to hire the extra 4 jail officers. We're also pushing into the hiring process for our mayor deputies, and mayor deputies will be voted for the public to know. We're getting ready to interview, I think 5 today, 3 tomorrow, and 1 later. So I think it's just shy of 10. And I'd have to look back at the schedule and see how many people are eligible. And one of the fantastic things that speaks strongly of this county is that people want to get hired here. And, so we're staying right on pace with county surroundings such as Boone County. We have as many applicants as they do for the most part. People are excited to come here. We have now 6 prior police officers that have the academy and are ready to go to work. We have that many. We have, I think, 4 that are non-police and are standouts in the process as well. So with that, we're right at the crux of getting some really good people for these 3 positions.
Okay. To circle back to where we started with the legal
Yes.
bills, and you said we don't need to deal with it today, and I would agree. We're in the process of trying to schedule some time to get together to talk as it is, and this certainly seems like a topic that's appropriate for those discussions. So what I'll want to do is make sure that everybody involved on our side, including Tom, gets a copy of all that so that we can be prepared to have those discussions. And I agree 100%. It's got to be straightened out one way or the other.
Yes,
So,
without a doubt.
so we'll.
So, and back to the process, I'm excited about it, but it shows the strength of this community and the fantastic things that people see here. So, it's nice to have law enforcement officers from other agencies choosing this county to come, get a job in. So with that, and not to say, I mean, even our people that aren't police officers are really darn good candidates. And I think we have 3 are from the community here, so it'll be nice to see how they fare out, because they'll go through a mayor deputy interview that happens today and tomorrow, and then they go before the mayor board, and the mayor board truly will make their recommendations to me, and then we'll sit down and talk and make those selections. So it's pretty exciting. So with that, I appreciate everything that council does. And also, commissioners, just let me know, we'll we'll get together and just like anything, whatever we can do, we can do. Appreciate it.
Thank you,
Any other
Sheriff.
questions?
Yeah, any other questions?
With regards to your correction officers, I've been noticing that they're hired in and come out of the federal inmate fund, but then they're moved to our correction facility lit.
When somebody quits, or there's an opening, and you let me know if you want to keep them in that, but what, I guess kind of the way to look at it is this, when you have somebody in the lit, and they resign, or they retire, most of them are resignations, and then we just move that list down, and then it's funded through there, it's kind of the, that makes sense?
I guess I just would have thought that you would have hired for the federal inmate and kept them in that one position, that you wouldn't move them into different funds. Usually, we don't hop people around.
Back around. Well, that's something that I will have the staff get with you on. If you
Okay.
want to keep those people in that,
I mean, is there a reason why we're not? Not really.
I mean, I'll have to ask that question to the staff and see what they say.
Okay.
But I think it's just that idea of, once they're there 6 months, 7 months, a year, whatever the case is, rather than, I think they're just moving them down into the lit and then just hiring the new hires into the federal inmate fund, so that if there is a point where they have to be, production wise, we talked about that, and if there's 30 inmates, we can't pay for 8, then people that are just hired in the federal inmate fund would be let go. They would be fun, but then, if you had somebody that was there 2 years and that happens, or 5 years, and that happens, federal inmate program, the attrition would happen. And if you kept that same person who's been there for 5 years in that fund and not moved them down, there's a good employee to do that, or would you rehire them or go through the rehire process?
I guess in my mind, are we down on correction officers then?
One last Thursday. That doesn't make sense. I mean, when we're full staff plus.
If you hire somebody in a program.
Okay. I was just trying to figure
So
all
maybe
that
we can
out.
sit down and talk about if that's an issue at the auditor's office,
Okay.
we can find a better plan.
Okay.
That's different than a budget issue.
Sure.
I think. I'll meet up later.
Thank you.
I think there's a difference. Okay, any other questions for the sheriff? Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you.
Okay, that gets us to our stack of additional appropriations. Clark, I'm gonna ask you to do some math for me.
Okay. I think we're on to,
Oh, okay, here's, get a chance while we're, so,
get my calculator out.
from, if we got that number in, and this was the number we just talked about that was supposed to go to the commissary that we would deny and let it stay in county general, subtract that out from that. And then that would have to come out of the county general line here. Okay. So, if I gave you my stack.
All right, just a second, I'll write it down here. 3303.56.
Okay, starting in the county general fund, the first item, and this one's a little bit confusing, if you guys have looked through it's not confusing, it's just a number that gets broken down. We got a grant reimbursement, in two payments, but totaling $15,240.88. That was a grant reimbursement that the sheriff's department received. And that money was reimbursing expenses made out of several different line items. But $11,937.32 of that was out of the commissary fund. That was what we were talking about. And so if we approve the appropriation, what would happen is a check would be written from county general to the commissary fund to reimburse it. And what I was suggesting was we just let it stay in county general to help reimburse for some of it. We've had several unanticipated repairs and the equipment purchase, and that would help defray some of that cost. So if we take that $11,937 out, that leaves $3,303.56 of that
Correct.
grant remaining to be expended, and we'll see those as we go through our list of requests here. And unfortunately, they all aren't quite in the right order here in my stack, so I apologize if I jump around a little bit. But we also had a grant reimbursement from, a 50% reimbursement for some expenses out of the work release program for $8,871. That's included in that number.
Do you need a motion to deny that?
Yes, why
11,000?
don't- that's a good point. Why don't we do that first?
Do that first.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to deny the 11,137.32 for reasons that we discussed prior.
Okay, have a motion by Clark.
Second.
Second by Mike. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 7-0. So of that remaining $3,300, $1,819.80 was jail janitorial supplies. $1,199 was jail miscellaneous, which was paper products. And then there's $284 left. Let me try to find that one. Because they're out of order. $284, that was jail repairs and maintenance. So I assume that was to probably to install some sort of hygiene equipment or something. So that's the remainder of that grant reimbursement that's out of the jail budget. We also received a check from the city for $25,000. That was the city's first payment against the EMA training facility. We've had some discussion about that, and from reaching out to Matt Stidham, his understanding is that that was an initial payment, and that we'll get the other $15,000 at a later date, so that they would match. Okay, so, but they did have paid the,
I'm not sure why they decided to do that.
I don't know if they were waiting on the tax draw possibly or something, so, but we did receive 25, so this is appropriating it to our line item for that EMA training facility fund so that it can be used. I think that takes care of that takes care of all the general fund ones. So Clark, can you take that 49,000 number and take off that 11,000, that ought to tell us what we have left from the general fund.
Let's see, what was that number, 11,000, okay.
From the highway department, $63,000 from the Cume Bridge Fund. We mentioned that fund a minute ago for bridge number 36 right-of-way work.
37,174.56.
So that's the number you guys will want to mark on your sheets there for that top category for county general. We would be approving $37,174.56. Drug and Alcohol Coalition, we got a grant there that we need to appropriate into some line items, and there's 3 line items that Nancy Ward is requesting. $15,000 for treatment, $15,000 for prevention, and $14,138.20 for criminal justice. From our MV, this is the appropriation that Rick addressed a moment ago. $400,000 from the restricted MVH fund for chip seal paving and stone for the county roads. From our misdemeanor fund, $1,000 for the Learning Network to provide a mini police academy. Jake, does that have to do with your Citizens Academy, or is it something similar?
That was through community corrections.
That's Brett.
Is that just for the citizens to learn about what you do?
We went to the courthouse, went to my office, went
Great.
to jail, went to the city.
Yeah, great. And then we've got a couple for 911 that we discussed in depth with Renee last month. $144,000 and $144,210 for that initial Motorola lease payment for our equipment upgrades, and then $42,830.20 for the antenna work that we discovered. needed to be, well, that we decided to come up with a more permanent solution so that we could get away from this water tower issue that we're having right now. And then we continue to have great success with the TREX programs. We have several TREX items from both probation and community corrections. First, from probation, you'll see there's several. I'm not sure why these get submitted multiple times rather than one number, but the first one is $2,614. The next one is $1,378. I guess that's the two we've got from probation. So again, that's several $1,000s that program is bringing in as it continues to be very successful. We have two items for the surveyor that are reimbursements to particular watersheds. So $1,315 from the Izzy Liebenguth, if I said that correctly, watershed for reimbursement for an engineering invoice paid. And then we have $4,099.52 for the Leslie Johnson watershed, that is one that crosses county lines, but we administer, so Tipton's giving us some money for their portion of the watershed. From the immunization line item in the health department, $3,000. Now, Rodney's explained this to us before. People pay to get immunizations, regular immunizations at the health department. He takes that money and turns around to buy new doses that we can use on future immunizations. So that's what this is. $3,000 of money he's received in that he's putting in a line item. Community corrections. Here we get into the TREX collections for community corrections. $344.09. 2609, 280.01. I think that's it. Yeah. So nearly another $1,000 there. From the health department, we got a refund from Gilman Home Center here down the street of $214.79 that we're appropriating back. And then lastly, from for the Public Defender Fund, we received our quarterly reimbursement payment from the state of $20,107.58. So those items all together make up additional appropriation ordinance 2021-10 as amended, with that one deduction. Does anybody have any questions over any of those? I know I went through them pretty quick, but they were all fairly straightforward this month. With that, I'd entertain a motion to approve that ordinance.
I'll make a motion.
Okay,
Second.
a motion by John and a second by Ron to approve the additional appropriation ordinance. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 7-0. I guess we should specify that was approved as amended with that one change. I want to note something that Britt noted to me, those grants, the grant funds that we voted on the appropriation, they're a little bit different than our regular fund appropriations. We don't have to do that, but Britt and I agree 100%. We prefer to do that for full transparency, to go through the process. It gives us a record that the council has seen that the county earned those grants and that we reviewed how they were going to be spent. So we'll have a couple more next month that didn't get advertised in time for this meeting. Janet, help me out here on which transfers need approved. Are they all? Do we have?
Transfer. There's just like three of them.
Well,
The first one says transfer appropriation.
the one for treasurer's office?
Yes.
Okay, and so then the next one that starts with commissioners, that's the one that those don't need, okay, because I couldn't tell which was which. Okay. From the treasurer's office, from extra help to office supplies, $1,700. This is to help defray the cost of an online payment solution to help make it easier for the taxpayers to pay online, which is awesome. Health Department, $2,590 from Social Security Medicare. I'm not sure what, that seems to say from the same thing to the same thing on mine.
Well, it's VC. I'm not sure what that stands for. That's what the name of that line
Okay, so there's two different line items. I see that. They're different numbers. So we're going from line item 010032 to 010031, but they both say Social Security and Medicare, so,
They're going from different categories. You're going from an O1 to an O2.
Okay.
Which makes it need approval.
okay, okay. And then lastly, Health Department, $1,900 from a salary to equipment, and then $182 from mileage to equipment. And this is for some additional cabinets and countertops in the new immunization clinic. So I'd entertain a motion to approve that slate of transfers.
I'll make a motion to approve.
A motion by Jake, second by Mike. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 7-0. Okay. Council reports. Anybody on the council have anything like to share?
Other than I gave you the book on the pension
Yes.
thing, and it seems to be doing real well on the sheriff's pension.
Yeah, we hit last year really well, where you put some money in at the low point in the market and got to capture that big gain since. And so, I don't know, Sheriff, anything you want to add about the pension report? I'm sorry I wasn't able to make it when Chris gave his update.
Just talk about the COVID or Narcan, so I can get my money back on it. Yeah, the pension is doing absolutely fantastic, and Mike came down and sat, Mike Henley came down and sat in. So as far as the pension goes, we are on pace. I think we're over 5 million for the pension fund. So we're gaining ground. So, and with that, markets, always fluctuate, things like that, but they do have a plan if there's an adjustment, to the overall stock market. So, and we're doing fine. We're gonna be really good. They wanted to go back to what, I know last year was a really unique year on the reimbursement with one-time going and putting that money in there. But it would be nice to get back to the, I would have to go back to the quarterly or monthly, on the payment rather than trying to do it all at once, one time of the year. We'll have to sit down and talk about that.
Okay. Well, kudos to Baird. They've done an awesome job.
Absolutely. With all of that being said, and it's, the pension survivability of it, and, for us to see the reduction in the overall, us putting more money.
Yeah, and so as it relates to us on the budget, we gotta have a certain number of dollars to be actuarially sound, and if it doesn't come from the returns of the fund, it comes from us out of our general fund. And so the fact that they're making so much money is really helping us on the part that we have to contribute, so. All right,
As always, Chris Calloway, from here is available, and we can get him scheduled into a meeting here, or we just make sure we invite everybody again to the next time he stops in at the office, which is anytime we want him to. So just let me know if there's a down day after budget, maybe this fall, we can sit down.
Mike just gave me this copy that he received at the meeting. If anybody else wants to see the pension performance data, I'm happy to copy and send that on, commissioners as well, if you'd like
If you guys would rather
to see
have
that,
that
but.
sent directly to you, I can have Mayor do that.
Why don't you just do that?
Yeah, send it to the commissioners as well.
I mean, because that's a big number in the budget, and I want everybody to be comfortable on how that's all calculated and why it is what it is.
Absolutely.
So,
We'll make that happen.
okay, thank you. Department head reports. I know, Mr. Coroner, do you, my understanding is you have a report, so.
Well, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Thank you for allowing me to speak in the coroner's office. I went to the commissioners' meeting last Tuesday and brought to them a need for the coroner's office. I don't know if you're aware, but the coroner's office does not have any cold storage anymore. We used to use the hospital, but however, we've worked out a deal with a local funeral home that has a cooler, and we've been using that. So I brought to the commissioners some advantage of having a new morgue facility. One thing with that, we'd be self-sufficient. Because I wanted to put like an autopsy table, like an autopsy suite, talking to full here. And EMA has graciously donated a room out there, which is the commissioner's building anyhow. But they've donated a room out there, which will work perfect establish a new morgue out there. I know Councilman Hussey's been out there and seen the place. Cost savings. In the past, the coroner's office has used Tippecanoe County Coroner's Office. So with that, they had to pay a facility fee. And that is $300 per autopsy that's done at that facility. And also on top of that, they had to pay a $50 access fee. So last 4 years, I come up with, they had 70 autopsies at $300 a piece. That was $21,000 spent last year for facility fees in Tippecanoe County. And with $50 for morgue access, that's $3,500. So $24,500 was spent the last 4 years to use another facility. So that's going to be a cost savings. Also, there could be potential revenue with a new morgue. Indiana Donor Network, if it's a donor's case, like on your driver's license, if you have the heart, it's my responsibility, that's the law, my responsibility to contact the donor network to do a donation process. With that, they pay a facility use fee. So we could potentially get up to $500 in funds to generate revenue if we have our own morgue. Chain of custody. The chain of custody will not be breached. Right now, we use a funeral home, and then they're moved to another funeral home. So that chain of custody could possibly be breached right there, whereas if we have our own facility, we're right there until that funeral home comes to take care of the deceased. Accessibility, for potential criminal cases right now, in the past, we've had to go to Tippecanoe County. So law enforcement would have to travel to handle their investigation, to collect evidence, things like that.
Just to add one thing, I have, our detectives are putting together all of the hours and travel times that they've spent.
Okay.
In this first 6 months of the year, they've already traveled, well, there's 12 I think it's 12 cases where they've had to travel out of county. And you spend hours at some facilities, so it does impact other budgets. It does make an impact.
And also with the pathologists nowadays, the forensic pathologists, they travel. So when I took over here at the beginning of January, funeral homes have also been graciously donating their facility for the pathologists to come. So we have not incurred, actually we have incurred at one time because we had a decomp case. And I was not going to allow that to be done in a funeral home, just out of respect for them ladies to use the facility. And
Yeah, understand. Yeah, understand.
Don't know with the decomp. So accessibility, I mean, law enforcement, if they forget something, if they forget an evidence collection kit that they need, or we find something in an autopsy they need it, it's just right down the road and back instead of having to travel an hour or 45 minutes. Comfort to the family, letting families know that, hey, your loved one's staying right here in this county, they're not going anywhere. They're in my care until we find out the cause and manner of death. That's a comfort to the family. Educational opportunities. Nurses, I don't know how many times, when I've been to the ER this year, nurses have asked, hey, can I come and see an autopsy? So there's educational opportunities for medical professors, paramedics, EMTs, nurses, even the doctors. So we've been working on, Mark and I have worked on a little bit out there, because there's a drain issue. Mark, do you want to speak on that drain issue at all? Or?
No, we found the drain, it's gonna be an easy.
Okay.
So I mean, I've gotten quotes, but I want to get more quotes, because right now, for a building contractor, I have one for $31,700, for plumbing is $6,500. Bobi Medical, this is the cheapest one I found for all the equipment needed for the autopsy suite, that's $28,400. And the security system, which is $1,091, then there's a $299.40 annual fee to the monitoring fee. But however, we're working on another contractor fee, plumbing fee, and security fees. We're doing our due diligence to find the cheapest, best rates.
And you're saying, so far you've just gotten one quote each? Is that what you're saying? And
Yes.
now you're going back to get us
Yes.
at least a second? Okay, good.
Yep. And the grand total right now is $67,691. But I'm sure that we'll be able to come in under, just from what we found out here within the last couple of weeks, or last week.
Help me understand one thing. So, when we pay the $300 fee to, say, Tippecanoe County, that's covering the cost of the pathologist, or whoever conducts the autopsy, correct?
No.
So
We
we're
still
paying
have-
on top of
We
that,
still
okay.
have on top of that between $1,700 and $1,900.
That's
fee.
literally just $300 to access the facility. Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Okay.
That's what kind of spurred this whole conversation back early in the year, was that we got these inputs for
Yeah, right.
Remember that? Yeah.
use of the facilities.
Well, and we've talked about it, and you haven't been at those meetings, but we've talked about it at least 2 or 3 meetings, and Jeff and John have done a great job of updating the rest of the council, and so we've been aware of your discussions, and this has certainly been on our radar, and I think I'm speaking for the whole council, and that we understand it's a good investment. It's not an expense, it's an investment. And so I feel like we're all on board supporting moving forward. I'm glad you're getting a second set of quotes. I think that we should do that. That's a big enough number that it needs to be done.
And also with the revenue portion of that also, Tipton County does not have a morgue facility, Carroll County does not. So that could be potential revenue
Yeah.
also.
Yeah.
Charge them a facility fee also.
Ron?
You had that $300, is that just for one night, or is it like they stay there for a week, you get a charge for each day, or
Actually, it's a one-shot deal.
just one shot? Okay.
But if they're there for more than one day, it's a $50 compound, so it's a $50 like storage.
Okay. Okay.
And the cooler that I have specs out from Mobile Medical is a 3-person.
Do you envision this end up being part of next year's budget process, or something that you'd want to move on sooner than that?
I would like to move on sooner than that.
Okay.
However, though, I did include that in my budget.
Okay.
Okay. Rick probably looked at that and probably thought, what in the world's going on? When she seen that.
Are you hoping then to have the second set of quotes by the August meeting?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Ed, I've been meaning to ask you, after the build out, have you kind of thought of what a yearly cost would be to keep this suite up, or is there any, like, what do you have to do with that? If the equipment is staying fine, is there licenses, what is it gonna cost?
It's just to keep maintaining the equipment.
Yeah.
And I'm also looking in right now to a grant through the Indiana State Department of Health to fund all the tools necessary needed to conduct an autopsy. However, the pathologist brings all their tools, but it's nice to have some on site also.
Okay.
All right, great. I appreciate that update. Well,
Commissioner, do you have anything you want to add?
I mean, I think we're on board. Just keep us up to date. And
I would say, sorry, Mark, but pretty sure we'd like to have an additional
okay.
council meeting if we were supposed to, but so we can play a rule on this, because I'm sure there's some lead time on getting that equipment. just
Yep.
like Everyone else, so the sooner we get it ordered, the sooner it's gonna benefit the people of the county, so.
When you get the quotes that you feel like are the ones you'll want to accept, get with me, because we'll have to get with Brett to make sure they get advertised in a timely manner and all of that, so that we'll have to kind of think through, and I guess maybe we should have that discussion now, let anybody give any input that they want. We'll have to decide where we're going to take that money from, if we're going to advertise, because that'll be Britt's question to me, is, where do you want to advertise this from? And rather than me making that decision, get any input that you have.
I just will say, with the facilities that the county owns, real estate properties and stuff, this is long overdue. And I think Ed's done a really, really good job in trying to move the coroner's office forward, given, what he was left with and what he has to go with now. So thank you for your hard work and keep it up. So.
My gut feeling off the top of my head without looking through the fund report, like you're doing the same thing I was thinking, is that it would be just the general fund. We've got some cash that's been built up there. Does anybody have any objection to that? I guess I'll ask that question. Okay. So
Kind
we'll
of be
talk.
COVID related?
Well, I had that thought too, but I'm not sure. They want to move faster than I think we can move as far as relating it to the ARP money. But that's sitting in there as cash balance, so that's kind of what I'm thinking. So just let's stay in touch and make sure, Brett, you don't, or Janet, if you'd make a note, don't let that advertising deadline get by us without, yeah, me either.
July 26th is when we'll advertise. Do you want to do the additional, or do you want us to?
Probably let you do that.
We'll just need to know
Well, yeah, we just need to know what to advertise.
yeah.
So everybody stay in touch. Mark,
I'm sure the quotes he has is
is the high end.
Yeah. That's fine.
So I guess worst case scenario, we could use that number, and then if it comes in lower, by the time we meet, we'll approve the appropriate amount. So, okay, good deal. I'm glad to see that moving forward. Anything else, Ed?
Been a busy
Yeah.
2021 already.
Yeah, yeah. Hate to see that. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we've kind of already heard from the sheriff, and we've heard from Rick. Any other department heads that need, Greg, anything?
I do have some information.
Okay.
Nothing from council action, but, you know how difficult it is to try to schedule a meeting during vacation times for everyone, so. I scheduled a meeting last week and met with the EMS supervisors and medical director concerning, new station. Renee, she printed out all the, pinpoint maps for the, I think I have 2019-20 now, that shows our response for all over the county, which is quite surprising, to see the areas that we respond to. Every ambulance, which includes Medic 1 and 2 here in town, 14 in Mulberry, and Medic 4, which used to be the hospital. So, just now sitting here, scheduled a meeting with commissioners to try to sit down and just see the difference of how the county, how we've changed. So now with that station out there, and how we work our responses out, to how we better serve the entire county. Since we're not stationed at the hospital any longer with the transfer ambulance, having the availability of that station. Taking an overall look of how we will respond and how we'll look at transfers. Meeting with the medical director, what her report will be concerning the ambulances, how we respond out of the hospital. Just looking at some of the numbers, we're increasing, obviously. I think everyone, numbers are increasing, but obviously the EMS numbers are increasing, people that we transfer. Other change has been our ratio of self-pay, Medicare, and Medicaid. Payments are, charges are going up. Self-pays are going down. Insurance use is going down. Those, how that plays into reimbursement.
Yeah.
For those payments too. So, kind of looking at all those numbers, it's really been, because I looked at those numbers to prepare for the budget, and seeing how those all play, the county has really changed in our responses, and the response that we have, as a council and commissioners, have made to that has been pretty impressive. So, going to meet with the commissioners, we're going to kind of look at this overall view of the county, medical director, and our supervisors that do the runs every day. Yeah, come to the council, talk to you about, obviously, next year's budget. If you look through that budget, I'm really proactive with the use of the CARES Act money and the Family Act money. I just have ideas on how that won't have to come out of the general fund, but can be used for that. So when you get these emails, they're just reminders that I have of how that could be used, and the budget has figures in there that could be used. CARES Act money could be used for that too. So things that we're finding out, the types of patients that we transfer. Not only has it been related to COVID, but we have patients that are going to appropriate hospitals now. So what we've been used to in the past, everybody went out here to the hospital if you were sick. That's not anymore. The most appropriate hospital, stroke center, cardiac center, those type of things. Those dynamics have changed throughout the county too. So just, we're going to take an overview and look at how we respond. Now that we have that availability in Rossville and the use of the personnel up there, we're still securing that area. A lot better area. Take a look at that and
Okay.
yeah, everything as far as, keeping everybody healthy, it seems like COVID is still around. The numbers could increase a little bit, but I think that freedom's coming back to
Building still on schedule?
the building is on schedule,
Yep.
yeah. we're
Good.
out there.
It's looking good.
We have some things going on, they should be out of there, first part of August, and we have our work to do, so, yeah,
Okay.
they're doing a great job.
Yeah, looks good.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm sorry, Greg, I'm sorry. I know that we talk a lot about numbers, because that's our job, but so the bad accidents that we've had, and I just want to just thank all the first responders, but the one on 739, was that pretty much all Clinton County? That was, I mean, we've got everything situated now that all Clinton County, I mean, was there outside
Yeah.
services that helped on that, or was it all?
There, yeah, I believe that's, is that the call that, like, Free Lifeline came down?
Yes. Yes.
So,
75 and 700.
Yeah,
yeah.
75.
Yeah, 75, yeah.
We had every ambulance there, and that's the first time I'd ever heard that many helicopters called to the scene. Carroll County was put on standby in case we needed them, and then the area hospitals were, they were on diversion so we could take the patients in. Every ambulance and from here was transporting patients. Volunteer ambulances were also involved. It was an incredible scene, and yeah, it went very smooth. Obviously,
It did. The ambulance services were, I mean, really spot on. I mean, they were there. It was fast. Everybody was getting transported and fed to where they needed. Helicopters coming in. And that's fantastic job of getting them programmed. Now, so, female that was Lifeline, she is home. Was home, I think, 4 days after the crash. She had a fracture, skull fracture, things like that. She downgraded within 24 hours to out of ICU and things like that. So that's what makes it difficult. Out of my area, but very good feeling when you have ambulances getting there as officers. Can't speak exactly on how well it was handled dispatch. I know there's probably 3 police officers calling in and get with all the information that they're trying to get, coordinating, so, you know.
Three landing zones. I've never heard, I mean, I thought having 2 helicopters on the scene, but I've never seen a situation where they were trying to set up 3 landing zones, and actually one landing zone, as soon as the helicopter lifted off, another helicopter landed at that same spot. And then you had ambulances treating the patients, taking them to appropriate hospitals, and that's what I mean. It's changed. Everybody didn't come back here. We went to appropriate hospitals. The head injuries, chest injuries, major traumas, any of that would go to the appropriate hospital. So, like I said, I mean, I sent that text to you guys that you would have the whole situation. I mean, I listened to Renee's end of it, when they, and law enforcement and the fire department. You would have been proud of everybody. The fire department had the landing zones in, and the way everything filtered in, everybody got off the ground.
You really make a great point, Jeff. Sometimes we just get so tied up into think about all this as numbers in a budget book, and it really is, I mean, those numbers mean something, and we've put in place a good system, so that is a very rewarding feeling.
Because where we started, you know, when we all started this back 4.5 years ago, it would not have been the same outcome. We would not have been able to handle this. We would have, county. So
Well, and I think about going back even farther, Josh, to the dispatch, prior to central dispatch, what it would have been like, you know, so, thank you to everybody.
I was working the desk that day, like, we had all of this going on, we still had medical calls going on here, like, we still had emergencies taking place, you know, we still had an ambulance to get to here in Frankfurt, like, we
Wow.
had some, I think we even had a chest pain call, we had 2 or 3 calls going on at the same time, and, you know, and yeah, I think we've landed 2 helicopters before, I've never landed 3, I mean, it was just, but everybody worked well, like Rossville, you know, fire department, I mean, everybody. I had several texts from some of the fire guys up there, you know, appreciative of everything. I mean, it was just, that's what we do, you know, we all
Well, kudos to everybody
Well,
that
thank
was
you.
involved.
Yeah.
You were down to me and an off-duty personnel to take the next hit.
We were down to.
Yeah, Greg and I show up. Yeah, we are out of help.
But you know, Josh, you've been on, that these things happen and we gotta be ready for them. And so thank you to both you guys for your leadership on having us ready for that day when it did happen. So, thank you. Any other department heads?
I'm in the middle of a hiring process, big shot there.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember if I told you or not, so you're doing testing on Saturday.
Okay,
Go from there after the testing.
okay, great. Commissioner reports. I know we've covered a lot of ground. Is there anything we haven't covered?
I've got one thing real quick.
Okay.
I'd like to propose, and I haven't talked to Jordan and Mark about this yet. Nobody likes having extra meetings, but I think this topic is going to be pretty important this year. And that's the topic of the build, operate, transfer. I started with RQAW, up with the company. Proposed a different method of usually we would do design, build, and now new method that you can take advantage of as a municipality called build, operate, transfer. City started this back. Anyway, I think it's a huge topic. It's something that everyone needs to be educated on, vote on, because there is some council action that will have to take place before commissioners can enter into a build, operate, transfer agreement. All kinds of highlights as to why we want to do this. I mean, obviously for us, and I'm speaking for myself, but I think we're gonna save money and maneuver more like a private entity and less like a.
Well, definitely would eliminate some risk.
So anyway, maybe late this month, get together. That way, probably got an off week at the end of the month, and that way, get that presentation made to a joint meeting. We wanted to take action at your next meeting. Just set us up for that. Probably what I'll have, with Jordan. Gonna try to coordinate.
Okay.
A date and time. We'll get together and then.
I had a representative, and I think I told you this, a representative of Envoy reach out to me, and we had a really good conversation yesterday, and he got me some of the basic information. It's very intriguing, very interesting. It's something that it will require some council action if we decide to go down that route. And one of the things I said was, we're not where you are. You guys have learned a little bit about it, and we haven't, and so we need to get up to speed for our part. But from what I've learned so far, it sounds very positive. And
What's it called?
build, operate, transfer. It's a
Build?
build, operate, BOT, build, operate, transfer, and it's just essentially in a procurement process that lets us get around some of the bureaucracy that we have now. And it really is. There's a lot of risk transfer away from the county to the contractor, which is what's one of the things that's really appealing to me. So, but we need to learn.
It's hot right now.
I mean, if you're like me, you like reading Indiana code, it's Indiana code 5-23.
23, yeah.
It tells you all about it.
Yeah, so it is a statutorily prescribed method of doing things, and I think it was Montgomery County, when they did their annex, was utilizing this process with Envoy, and so he was able to kind of walk through with me how they did it, and it was really interesting, so.
I think it's the only way the county's been going, or the commissioner. It's their own.
So, as Josh said, look for an email at some point. We'll probably try to schedule a special meeting so that we can hear that and allow ourselves as much time as we need to answer questions or start to get educated on it. Because I think that council action, there needs to be a resolution that's one of the first steps if we decide to go down that route. So we need to be up to speed.
We met with them, the city met with them last week, and the city's looking at that program, a combination of the police station and
Oh, okay.
the pool.
Okay.
So they said,
Okay.
looks like it does take a while.
Yeah.
Transfers that over. And I can do that. Labor
Well, I'm anxious to learn more, so I look forward to it. We'll just coordinate. Mark, yes?
I agree with Josh, 100%. It takes the risk off of us, and the bottom line is the numbers we're looking at.
Yeah.
But I also have something else. Talked to Josh and Jordan, and I think, not to speak for them, but I think they're not. I've talked to a couple council members. I think, like Jake said, with all the buildings we own in the county, it's time to look forward to, like a full-time. We have the courthouse, Purdue Extension, probation, fairgrounds, community corrections. I think we need one person to kind of just be on, instead of just trying to, seems like right now we're just whoever's fixing what, and nobody seems to know. I've talked to a couple people on the council, and just something that, just to look forward to the next budget season, maybe.
Yeah, your research you'd done was pretty eye-opening on how much money we've been spending on things that a person on staff could do. That, yeah, appreciate you doing that work.
I think it's just time to move forward and look at something or someone.
I guess the point being is it sounds like you're asking for new money and you're not. We're spending it out.
We're spending more.
We're spending it.
The new maintenance guy would be paid for about $3 million. Yeah, we're spending a lot.
We're spending it, yeah, a lot.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll definitely take that under advisement and
Yeah, I appreciate that.
we'll look at it, and I know you had said to me, and if there's a point, you had talked about maybe getting a little bit of money even in the budget for now to have some stuff, so if we need to talk about a specific plan or numbers there, get with us and we'll,
I'd like to find somebody, maybe retired gentleman or something, that can work 10, 15 hours a week. There's just so much that needs done in all these buildings that a guy can spend a couple hours and fix this, fix that. Maybe a temporary position down and everything the whole time.
okay. We gotta have we need to figure out what wage that would be and what that would total up to on dollars and everything, but yeah, we could, because then we'd have to do an additional appropriation for that, so we'd need to run through the numbers and do the math and get with Britt and,
Personally think, to find someone that could do a little bit of plumbing, a little bit of electric, a little bit of construction, you're probably looking at $20 an hour.
okay? Okay.
And they could work 10 hours or 15 hours or, just.
I'm afraid that'll be a tough position to fill, but,
If we could find a retired policeman, fireman, somebody like that, they're all pretty good.
okay,
Just to kind of fill in, and there's just so much going on that it just needs attention.
okay,
The gutters at the Purdue Extension office is all laying on the ground. It takes somebody a couple hours to screw up the gutters. Not the gutters, but the downspouts.
downspouts, yeah.
We've got water coming in the basement that we get on that. There's a lot of little things like that.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you bringing it up. We'll certainly talk about it during the budget process, so. Anything else that needs to come before the council?
Financial statement for June 30th.
Financial statement, thank you, Clark.
I did look at the numbers. I see we got that Recovery Act money in there. I think it's the largest balance we've had for a while. I have a question, Janet, and I know I could ask you privately, but I keep forgetting. My computer won't allow me to turn a PDF, rotate it. Is there any way when you send this out, you can rotate the
Probably.
sheets?
I mean, how does it?
Because I end up having to look at it like this.
Okay, I'll experiment with it.
Could you please?
Get extra.
Thank you. But anyway, I thought it looked fine.
We should be able to scan it
Scan it a
sideways.
certain way.
Yeah.
So let's have a motion to, that we'd receive this month's monthly financial statement.
So moved.
A motion by Clark, second by Jeff. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 7-0. Now, any other business to come before the council?